Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose.
Welcome to episode 148. That's right. Almost 3 years of weekly purposeful content from the On Purpose podcast to our amazing worldwide community. And this week I am excited. I got a fellow retired law enforcement officer turned even more public servant after he stepped away, which is, something I preach about all the time here. You can't just quit serving. We serve one way or another our whole lives. So I'm excited for the On Purpose podcast community to welcome in my friend, Ralph Graves Jr.
Man, thank you for having me, Jerrod. Thank you. Hey, everybody, On Purpose, what's going on?
Shoot, man, they're big time. They're ready to hear from you, and I'm excited. I was reading and preparing for this, and man, you're a guy that makes a difference in a lot of people's lives, and we're honored and blessed that you would allow our platform to help share your story with the community and the world.
Man, I'm honored to be on this platform and to meet this wonderful community, man. And I'm excited to be here. I'm honored, man. When I got the call, I said, I have arrived. I must have arrived. I am now on the On Purpose podcast.
Oh, I love it. I don't know about that, but I you know what, we're gonna do our best here. But
man, 3 years of content, man. Listen, as a content creator, I know what it takes. Consistently showing up week in and week out. Man, that is truly a feat, and I want to encourage you to keep at it for sure.
Well,
please.
thank you. Yeah, it's it's just like a lot of things in your background, and there's days where you're like, oh, I don't know if I got it. I got to keep pushing. But when you remember that other people are counting on you, that's how we show up, and we're blessed, and this community has been amazing for us, and we want to keep growing it. But you look like you're still in good shape, my friend, and
yes, sir.
I don't like to jump into the heavy lifting. We got to do some jumping jacks, some warm up type stuff. So I got to warm you up, Ralph Graves Jr. You ready for this?
All right.
The On Purpose style warm up.
All right, I'm ready.
You get stranded on an island. You get one food for the rest of your life. What are you going to be eating?
That one food is, it's steak, brother.
Steak.
Yeah, right. And I apologize to all my vegans and all my other vegetarians, but I'm a meat eater, man.
No way, no apologies for that. It's so funny. I had Loretta Horner Miller on like 3 weeks ago. Super awesome lady. She owns a ranch in Colorado. Yeah. And she took blueberries to her island. You believe that?
Blueberry. Well, I guess if you're around it all the time, man, I'm steak.
I told her I was a little nervous for her safety going back to the ranch if they hear that she chose blueberries.
Yeah.
All right, Ralph, another question here for you. You get one superpower. What is it and why?
Ooh, one superpower. What is it and why? I don't know. I don't want to say I'm gonna fly. That's so. How about just insight? Super sensitive insight to the people that I'm on this journey with. And why? Because it'll really help me see things from their perspective as we journey together, and I can see and I can find out how I can best serve them.
That's that true servant heart right there. That even your superpower serves others.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, Ralph, you get dinner with one person, either no longer alive or currently living. Who is it, and what do you want to learn from them?
Okay, someone I haven't met, I guess. Who is it, and what do I want to learn from them? I want to have dinner with. I want to have dinner with Muhammad Ali.
Oh, great choice. What would you ask him?
I would ask him, man, how were you able to just keep it together and keep on loving everybody during that most difficult time of when you fought, when they wouldn't let you fight, during the civil rights, threatened to be thrown in jail? How did you just keep on being Muhammad Ali? How did you keep on just loving everyone? What was the secret sauce
Man, could you imagine if he could share that with us and we could actually have the world doing a little more of that today?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, and you know what I love about Muhammad Ali's story is he was originally not super popular for the stance he took. You know what I mean? He was
No.
against the government, against the war, which in turn, people realized that he was probably right for a lot of that.
Yeah. And still stood there in the face of
did.
all of that. And so, yeah.
I wonder how much money he lost too, right? Because like that's the other part of that sacrifice, because he couldn't fight in his prime.
Lost the best years of his fighting life. But really, when we look at his life, he probably would have surmised, I know by now, my life was more than just about fighting. The fighting was just a platform to get me on.
Yeah, for sure. And that'd be a great dinner. Hey, if that happens, let me know so I can come.
Yeah. Oh, you're invited, man. You're invited.
All right, Ralph, what is your favorite book and what are you currently reading?
My favorite book was written by, it's one of the books that changed my life, of course, outside of the Bible, but the favorite book that I read over and over again while sitting in a police car was What Makes the Great Great by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. I love that book on what makes the great great. It really transformed the way I thought. It really awakened what I knew was already inside of me, and it really it pushed me further, even toward being who I was destined to be. What I'm reading now, I'm reading something by a man called Brad Stulberg, and the name of his book is called The Practice of Groundedness. Practice of Groundedness, and it's a transformative path to success that feeds you, not crushes your soul. Like we can really take this path to transformation that really feeds us. A lot of times we go on this path and it, just go, and it really crushes us. But really, it talks about really getting grounded and staying grounded while still pursuing that path of success.
I love that. And let's go back to Kimbrough's book. So you're reading that while you're a police officer at work?
Yeah. While I'm at work, man. This was before, you and I was in the street, man, before smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
So you get parked up somewhere, I pull out my book.
Right.
I'm reading, I'm supposed to be
You
running
working the night shift?
Yeah, night shift, if I wasn't on call. And I was a sergeant, so I had some leeway.
Yeah, for sure.
So, people thought I was running radar. I wasn't running radar, man. I'm reading, man. I'm reading. I wasn't running radar. I'm reading. So I read a lot, man, when I was on duty and things like that. I may have been a different type of police officer. I always thought that and they called my squad the regulators, because we went and we wanted to make life better for people.
Sure.
We didn't want to escalate anything. We de-escalated everything. Everybody thought, oh, you're a bunch of tough guys. And we de-escalated so much, man. But during that time, yeah, I read a lot of books, but my favorite, of course, was What Makes the Great Great by Dennis Kimbrough.
Man, fantastic. So let's talk about that before we move on, because we do have a good law enforcement community that listens to this podcast.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your transition. How did you know when it was time for you to step away, and how did you know to put things in place so you didn't step, on Friday, you're a full-blown policeman serving his community. On Monday, you don't know what you're going to do. How did you do that transition?
Oh, man, you get a lot of time to think, you know how it goes in the law enforcement community. When you first get hired and you get out there, man, you full of piss and vinegar. You're going to change the world and this, that, and the other. But, the world is the world. And so, you study while you're there, you do your best, you start getting to year 10, and you can go one or two ways. You can either get disgruntled by year 10 or 15, like so many of them do, so many of my peers have done, or you could say, I got to better myself. I got to start preparing myself, because in 10 or 12 years, I'm out of here. And so you start taking, leadership classes, and you start making the best of your time at work and at home. And so you start getting an idea, all the time you're in motion, you start getting the idea. You have to wrap your mind around that there is life after this. Being an officer, and I'm sure, Jerrod, that you ran into guys that's who they were. With me, it was just something that I did. I did it at a high level, and I know I was good at it, but it wasn't who I was. I knew guys who worked 30 years, retired. Yeah, they retired Friday, and by the next Thursday, they died of a heart attack. I wasn't
Yeah.
going out like that. I
No.
wasn't going out like that. I walked in, I was determined to walk out.
It's so fun. Now, did you have that mindset when you first got hired? Because you're absolutely right. When we get hired in law enforcement, we want to work all the overtime, all the shifts. Like that's all we want to do.
Yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
gets to you for a while. Did you know going into the career you were going to do like right around 20 and get away, or were you open to staying longer?
I was open to staying longer, but they opened up that thing in Jersey where you could leave at 20 and get the full pension and everything. So they opened that up. They were fighting for it along the way, but they really opened that up around when I was around at year 16 or 17, and I knew I was leaving. But I got in and I got under proper mentorship.
Yeah.
I got under proper leadership, proper mentorship. I saw guys that committed professional suicide. I saw guys that did it the right way. I saw guys that did it the wrong way. And I wanted to do it the right way, and it goes back to your core set of values, your core set of characteristics. I mean, there's good and bad in every profession.
Yeah.
And so you have to have you have to have a North Star. You have to have a core set of values that are guiding your life. And my mentorship, I was lucky enough in my book, Unstoppable, that I wrote, I was lucky enough to have good parenting. And, my father and mother actively involved in our lives. And so I kind of always had a North Star, but I knew that I was going in, this provided for my wife, my family. I had 3 kids while I was a police officer. It provided for the lifestyle I enjoyed, but I knew it was going to come to an end. And so what you going to do after that? Who are you going to be? You have to be more than just that. You have to be more than just what you do. All of us are doing something, but what are we becoming while we're doing it, and who will we be when it's over?
Yeah. Oh man. Well said. Well said. So what kind of activities were you involved in during your career? So while you're working, what else are you doing to set yourself up outside of law enforcement?
Oh man, I'm coaching football. I'm coaching high school football, man. Of course, I knew probably around 8 years old that I knew that I was going to be an influencer of some sort. And, I knew that I was going to end up preaching. I knew that. I started preaching when I was about 25. I was on the force. I went to college, played football, went to Bible college, graduated, Philadelphia College of Bible, did all that kind of stuff, man. But I knew that even with that, our Creator created me for more than just an in-church situation. He gave me a voice. He gave me an attitude. He gave me a courage. Even my father saw it in me to really begin to understand what leadership really is. So many times people are thrown into leadership and they don't understand it. He gave me the ability to really understand that the more people you serve, the better. The more people that you walk with them on a journey, a leader walks with them on the journey. Yeah, I can get there fast by myself, but who wants to get there by themselves?
Right. How boring is that going to be when you get there?
Yeah. So I want to take as many as I can with me on the journey. So, all of that was worked out and revealed. I became a sergeant early. I was a sergeant at 25, man. That was unheard of where I was. I didn't know anything about leading men, but my superiors saw that I did. And so I threw myself into leadership development. I threw myself into personal development and leader. If I was going to lead anybody, Ralph had to lead Ralph first.
Yes.
If I can't lead myself, who else am I leading?
No.
So I threw myself into personal development. I threw myself into leadership, man. And, it started really revealing itself as I was walking in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you said. It's kind of the same thing I did in my life. And what I really encourage definitely police officers to do, but anyone that's involved in their career is make sure you're doing stuff outside of that career.
Yeah.
Like how many people did you know that all they want to do was police work? So they either worked overtime, they worked the regular shifts, they had no outside hobbies to counterbalance the stress. And I think too many people in life get caught up in this grind mentality and this hustle, and they forget.
Yeah.
We got to balance.
It has to be so much more. I did jujitsu. I did all kinds. I'm a weightlifter. I did very physical. That was my thing. And I didn't walk around, telling people, oh, I'm a cop. I didn't even want people to know. Half the time, and Jerrod, you sound like, me. People ask me what I did for a living. I wash airplanes at the airport. That is, no one talks to me about it. As soon as you tell them you're a cop, they're asking for an FOP card. They're asking for a ticket. Do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? I was so much more than that,
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because my last assignment for the last 10 years of my career, I ran our academy. So I got to teach young recruits all the time.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I would try to tell them, like, don't let the career become your identity, right? Like, you got to do, like, I did jujitsu, I fought, I coached wrestling. I did a lot of stuff away from the badge, because just like you, that was what I did. It wasn't who I was.
Right.
And whether it's police work or all kinds of professions, people forget that they have a whole other side of life.
The mistake that we ask people is, when we meet them, we ask them, what do you do for a living?
Love it.
That's a horrible question to ask somebody. What do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do for a living? I try not to ask that question. I try not to say, hey, what do you do for a living? I go anywhere but that, because I don't want you to think our relationship is going to be based upon what you do for a living.
So, brother, we actually did an episode on who you are, not what you do, is what was titled. Same thing. Like, nobody asks you, like, I don't come up to Ralph and be like, Ralph, it's great to meet you. Tell me, who are you?
Yeah. Who are you? What makes you tick?
Right. That's way more important. But you're right. We shake hands. Hey, Ralph, I'm Jerrod. What do you do for a living? And then that minute of what do you do, we're deciding if that relationship goes any further.
We're deciding it. And you and I both know we were cops for a long time. I don't want to meet another cop. No, I'm just kidding. No.
That's the truth, man. That's the truth.
But I think we put too much on what a person does for that. Has nothing. That there's some phenomenal unemployed people who are unemployed and it's not their fault. They just can't fight. They're so phenomenal. So our relationship is not going to be based upon what you do, but what makes you go. What are some of your hopes and dreams? What are some of your values? Who are you?
You know what? And I'll even take it a step further for our parents out there, Ralph. I think we're about the similar age. So my kids are all out of the house doing their own thing in life.
Yeah.
And I try not to ever ask them, like, hey, how's work going? What are you doing for work? I want to know, what are you doing to be happy?
Yeah.
Right. Because how many people, have great jobs with huge pay and they're miserable?
Yeah. I know quite a few.
Yeah. We're around a bunch of it.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And dude, if we ask people who you are, we would learn so much. Because even imagine, like, go back to your dinner with a person. What if you'd have met Ali when he was not fighting in the war, dodging the draft, and people were negative towards him?
Yeah.
And you dismissed him based off him telling you, like, that's what I'm doing. You're like, okay, that's not going to work for me.
Yeah. Now, mind you, while going through it, none of us know the end of the story. He didn't know the end of the story. He didn't know that he was going to be the Muhammad Ali that so many worldwide have come to know and love. He was just a guy going through it. And so you're right. Would we have stayed and still cultivated that relationship?
Absolutely. Like, think about an Uber driver, right? Like, people are like, oh, I drive Uber. Well, what you don't know is on his time off, he's writing books or he's applying for, you know what I mean? You don't know. And that's, we're on the same page. I don't want to know what people do. I really don't care how you make your money anymore. I want to know who you are and what do you bring into the world, and how's the world going to be better with you here? Yeah.
That determines whether you and I, we're moving in the same direction. That determines if you and I will keep the relationship. Are we moving in the same direction based upon bringing value to people around us and making a difference where we are? It's not what you do.
Absolutely. Amen. Couldn't say it better. All right, Ralph, talk to me about this. As I was reading your bio and stuff, you said your life's purpose is to guide men and women to unlocking their full potential. What I loved was the next response. We asked you, how did you discover it? And you said it discovered me.
Yeah.
Share that insight with us, would you?
Well, even when I was a kid, And my mom tells the story. I really don't remember. She said, as a child, she said, I remember I bought you a coat, and it was you had it for maybe a week or two. You came home without the coat. And I asked you where the coat was. And you said, so-and-so, I don't know, was cold and didn't have a coat, and you gave it to her. She said, that's when I knew that my son is somebody special. He's going to be all right. He gave away a brand new coat. So I guess it's just always, and I don't remember the story. My mom tells, I might have been second or third grade, but I always, and I know this, I always wanted an interaction with Ralph Graves to not only be I always wanted to leave you better than you were before we met. I always wanted, and whether it was feeling better about yourself, whether it was, I always offered a word of encouragement. Like I always knew that as a kid, man, and I did that a lot, even as a police officer, man. I had to arrest people, and they were like, man, you know what? Thank you. Like I'm arresting people, and they're thanking me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, but and it's just, I want people to understand that your existence, that your birth, that you being on this planet was not happenstance. Now, there are consequences to all of our decisions. You're more than just your parents getting together. You were placed here, you were given the nod, you survived everything up until this point for a purpose, for a reason. Now, it's time for you to start paying attention to that. When they'll say, well, Ralph, how did you start paying attention to yours, man? It's just working in it and walking in it and being open to it. And being open to different perspectives sometimes, man, and understanding that no matter where we are in this world, we have the same needs: food, shelter, clothing, encouragement. We need that. And so as I'm walking and as I'm working in it, it gets revealed, and doors will start opening for you. Now that's my purpose. That was beating inside of me to do that. And so I want to take men and women on this journey. We're on this journey together. We're all facing the same things. And although we may disagree at some point, but we're all trying to get to the same place. A good friend of mine is with me today, singer, songwriter, one of the best in the biz. The music never stops in his head. It never stops in his heart. Now I never hear it. Now I can't hold the tune. I can't hold the tune. But it never stops for him. So if that was a God-given gift for him, what are we doing daily to cultivate that? How are we sharing that with the world? If we have artists listening, if we have entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, there is something inside of you that you can't even explain it. You can't even let it go. How do we really begin to cultivate that? And never just brush that to the side. It's not about money. Somebody told me a long time ago, Jerrod, you do what you're called to do. The money will chase you.
Yep.
You don't have to chase the money. The money will find you.
Yep.
And so it's just really, I just encourage men and women to walk in it, to work in it, to, if you have to take the job, I call it job, J-O-B, just over broke. If you have to take the job just to finance what you're doing, go ahead and take the job. But don't die with that, because we need whoever you were designed to be. Don't you know we need it, man? The world needs it. I need that. I need it.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why, honestly, that's why we have this community, because I don't know who needs your story today or tomorrow, but I know if I don't share it, they may not hear it.
Yeah.
But what I loved, you said something there, and that was take the JOB, even if it's not what you think your purpose is, but it's working you towards it. And now I would just add to it.
Yeah.
But don't take something and go half-ass or cut it short because you're developing habits that won't serve you later.
No, exactly. You can't do that. You got to take it. You got to understand what it's for. You have to have, I don't even go here, but you have to have a vision for your finances. You have to have a vision for every dollar you make. If I make $20, what's the vision for each one of these $20? What's the vision? Is it is it being poured into the larger vision that I have for my life? So I'm going to take the job and I'm going to give it all that I got, but I'm going to understand. I can never let it become a comfort zone, because so many times comfort zones become kill zones, and I don't want it to kill me while I'm being comfortable.
And I think that's honestly what happens to a lot of police officers who have fantastic ideas and
Yeah.
super marketable skills as they get comfortable with that law enforcement lifestyle.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
don't learn comfort and risk after their career to create something like what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, law enforcement community, to all the community, but especially to my law enforcement brothers and sisters, you are so much more. Now, I thank God for what you're doing. Please do it at a high level, but that's got to come to an end. But you don't have to come to an end. So, cultivate it. Cultivate it. If some of you are great cooks, I don't know, invest. Go get in front of Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. Start a food truck.
Start a food truck.
So many ways. So talk to me. When did you decide you were going to write a book, Ralph? When did that come to mind?
10 years ago. Easily 10 years ago, I knew I was going to write, and I got about 25 books in me. The one down, or actually 2 or 3 down. I got a couple more to go, but I just knew I was going to write. And here's the thing about books, and I'm a reader, so I knew I had to write. Books were thrown on to me at a very young age. My mom really instilled reading in us, and books will live after I'm gone, and it's written. And so again, thinking of an audience, not just today's audience, but 20 years from now, somebody's going to pick up Unstoppable and it's going to change a life.
Yeah.
I might be gone 40 years from now. I might be gone, but that writing will always be out there.
And your kids will be able to always look at it and know that you contributed that to the greater good of the world.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Now,
always.
So talk to me about, you came up with a book, Unstoppable.
Yeah.
7 universal laws that will transform how you pursue success.
Yeah, man.
How'd you come up with the number 7, and how'd you work your way through these?
Well, 7 I came up with number 7. That's that religious background. 7 is the number of perfection. There's so many universal laws, but let me just deal with 7 of them. Well, I came up with them, Jerrod, on the street, man. Police officer on the street, you see all levels of success, right? You see success. And you see people who are crazy successful with the 8th grade education. You see people with PhDs selling shoes at the mall, right? And so it's like, okay, what's the issue here? What's the difference? Well, all of the universal laws that I talked about, and when I call them universal laws, this is not hocus pocus, but it's like gravity. Gravity is a universal law.
Yep.
You have to respect it. I don't care what color you are. I don't care your religious affiliation. I told my Christian brothers and sisters, if we stood on top of a building and we jumped off, the Christian ain't gonna grow wings. We disrespected gravity. Okay, so everybody's fault. And so these universal laws and I've seen them work wildly in the lives of others and in the life of myself. And we talk about, the law of reciprocity. We talk about the law of habit, the law of mental equivalency. We talk about these laws that if you apply them and respect them, they will transform your life. They will transform how you reach success. Because the laws aren't prejudiced. The laws will not be denied. The law doesn't care. These universal laws don't care who follows them. They don't care who doesn't follow them. You respect them. You apply them to your life. You will reach levels of success that that you probably didn't think you'd ever reach. But there's so many universal laws, but I just wrote about 7 of them.
Yeah, I love it. So how do you get somebody to be honest with themselves, right? Because I think a lot of times people know they need to make changes or they desire to make a change.
Yeah.
But when they look in the mirror and they're reading your 7 laws, like, oh, I got these, when they don't, how do you encourage them to be bare boned honest with themselves?
Well, listening to a podcast like this, in this community like this, in the Unstoppable community, most people who are attracted to communities like this aren't afraid with getting honest with them. We don't have to talk them into getting honest with themselves. They've gotten to the point like, something in my life has to change, and it's not necessarily other people. So this has to be me. So by the time people reach this podcast and grab my book and come over and do these things, they've already kind of come to terms and come to grips of, all right, I got to change things. I'm wrong here. It's me. It's not everybody else. I've been disrespecting forgiveness, the law of forgiveness, a universal law. I've been mad at my parents for 30 years. And because I haven't forgiven them, I cannot grow into the person or I haven't forgiven myself for a past mistake. So it's those things like that. But by the time they reach our communities, so I don't spend a whole lot of time convincing people. They'll come see us. They'll come.
And so
They'll come.
what's the onus then for us, right? Like if we're not going to talk them into coming, we're just going to continue presenting and putting messages out, believing they're going to come, then
and live the life in front of them.
Thank you. We have to be ready. Yeah.
We have to live it. We have to be ready. We have to live out what we're talking about. There's so many influencers, man, they do a lot of talking and they don't live out anything. No, we have to live it out. We've got to believe it. We got to live it. And then, you see it in your own family. Like I said, you have adult children. I have adult children. They're so used to hearing our voices that sometimes they don't hear them. But after a while, when life gets done having their way with them, hey, Dad, listen. Yeah. Now you're ready. So what you and I do, we create an atmosphere. You're laughing because it's true.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely.
We create an atmosphere where they're always, I don't accept your foolishness, but I accept you.
Yeah.
I don't accept your foolishness, but I accept you. So this way, when you get done with that foolishness, you can always come to Dad and Mom. And it's the same thing with nieces and nephews and people we mentor. Hey, listen, I'm always going to accept you. And hey, if you believe that, do your thing. But I have to draw the line when it comes to your foolishness. But so we live it out in front of them. We create atmospheres of love and acceptance of them without accepting their foolishness. And they'll come around. They got to know that they'll come around. They'll come around, and I say that not even talking about my kids or anybody else's children, but because, I had a father that was my mother and father. And you're talking to a guy who spent half his life trying to prove them wrong. All right. So this is not, I would say, all right, Dad's wrong about this. Watch, I'm gonna prove him wrong. I tried to prove mentors wrong and people in my life wrong. But you come around after you get tired of getting beat up.
Yeah, and that's what life's going to do to you. And I think that's it's a very important part of life, right? Is to have those knockdowns and those blows, and to realize. I was reading Matthew McConaughey's book, and some advice he had for young people is don't focus so much on what you think your purpose is, but find out what it isn't.
Right. I get it. I can understand that. Yeah.
Right. So instead of just sitting back doing nothing, waiting for this ideal purpose to show up, go out and try things. And maybe you'll be like, okay, it's definitely not going to bars all night and partying all day and using all my money. Okay. So that's not who I am. So that I can start narrowing things down. But I was laughing at your story there. Cause we just took a family trip to Costa Rica and all the kids got to come and they were talking to me, off on the side, they talked to me about the podcast. And I'm like, oh, you're listening to Dad's pie. Suddenly now.
That's right. That's right.
In the house, you didn't listen at all.
Yeah. I'm going to tell your kids, if they're listening right now, I'm going to tell your adult children, God bless you. This is from this is from your Dutch Uncle Ralph. Your dad knows what he's talking about. I'm just leave it just like that. Pop knows what he's talking about. Now,
have you got your kids listening? Are they checking in on you on the down low, or do they let you know?
On the down low, but they let me know, oh, Dad, that was a good episode last week.
Yeah, that's the best, man. And I think, we are so blessed right now, and maybe some people disagree with me, but I would argue this, to live in today's day and age where me and you can meet and talk from across the country to share messages like this with people that can listen to it whenever they want.
Yeah.
Is a blessing.
Yeah. What a day and age. This technology is phenomenal. We can cry about it. We can talk, this and that, but it's a great, you've talked to people all over the globe.
If we use it, right? If we step up and go, okay, this is our calling. We need to step into it. How do I use this for the good? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, man.
So talk to me. I also saw you got a 90-day leadership personal development course that you're running. How are you working that? And like, what's your goal with that?
Well, the goal is, well, first of all, we're running this. Let me tell you all about it. We're starting actually today, when I get off of this call, we're doing a 5-day challenge to kind of lead people to that. And what it is, man, if any transformation is going to happen in your life, it starts with personal development. And I am pouring 6 weeks coaching calls, videos. There's a cohort. We're not accepting more than 20 people at a time because I want it to be personal. We'll meet together. We'll meet together weekly. You get 2 coaching calls. You get a whole package that comes with it. You develop relationships with people that don't necessarily do what you do. So I don't want a room full of police officers. So we kind of looking at who's in the room together. I'll take a police officer in there with some artists, with some engineers, with the app developer, so that now we're building. We're not only growing together in personal development, but now we're building each cohort. They'll leave with a network of people that they spent 6 intense weeks with, really drawing out and really, really catapulting them into the next level of their life, man, next level of success.
And how did you decide to go like small group personal development like that? And, because the book can reach a bunch of people. How did you decide to take that next step into small group leadership?
Small group leadership, man, it works. It's more intimate. It's personal. You become someone that everybody can touch and access. And you, as a person that's leading it, you can touch everybody in the room. You can touch everybody in the room. You're developing relationships with these men and women that are all moving in the same direction. Larger groups are great for conferences and great sizes like that, but so many things get lost in the sauce. I mean, you can have heart to hearts. We're really going to discover that what I want to get down to, and I can't do it more than 20 people. Again, I'm a Christian. I take a page out of Jesus's book. He only dealt with 12 people at a time, and one of them didn't listen. So, so if Christ himself only dealing with 12, I know I can't handle no more than 20 to really give them the fullness of who I am and to really dig down into who they are. Let's reach that why. I want to hear about that inner voice. I don't want you to tell me about what you do. I want to get down to that inner voice of that why and what makes you tick. I want to talk about that thing that it sounds silly, Ralph, but I always wanted to do pottery. Why does that sound silly?
Right.
I want to be able to get down to that and really get down to that, man.
And what do you think it is that holds so many people back from pursuing that one thing that they dream about every night?
Ego. And I had a young man tell me a few days ago, I don't want to look weak. A lot of men don't want to look weak. They don't want to shed that tear. And so they lead these quiet lives of anger, these quiet lives of living below the level of their potential. But I think ego, man. I think we live in this digital age where we have to put on this front on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagrams, and I tell people that's just fantasy. Nobody's showing you their real lives. They ain't showing you the tears they crying at night. They're not showing their emptiness. And so I think a lot of times that ego, it might be the pursuit of money. It might be always trying to fulfill what your parents thought you should be. My son's going to be a doctor. Well, I don't know. Listen, maybe that's not what's beating inside of his or her chest.
Yeah.
Maybe they did it strictly for you. Now they graduate med school and then they get in my class and they tell me, Ralph, I always wanted to do digital marketing.
Yeah.
You spent 8 to 12 years in med school doing research. You could have invested that in digital marketing.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the expectations of others, you're right, ego. I would say also too, man, so many people allow fear to just regulate their life.
Yeah. Well, fear is the new virtue.
Well, it is. So here, let me get your perspective on this. So I just did an episode, actually just aired, I think right before yours. It's called Don't Be Afraid of Your Fears.
Yeah.
Right. And I think 2 different ways here. I think fear is a natural instinct, right? We all should have fear. Right. Fear tells me not to jump across this because it might be dangerous. Fear tells me like, ooh, man, getting up to give this talk in front of this people, man, I'm a little nervous. That's fear, right? Mm-hmm. Being afraid means this is my behavior, right? Like fear kept up. Now I got afraid and I stepped back. I didn't go on the stage. Fear I like. Right. Fear keeps me sharp and alive. It lets me know something's really important.
Yeah.
I don't have to be afraid of that.
No, you don't. But you and I understand that definition. Our culture today has listened to certain messages for so long that they stay in the place of being afraid. Like just listen, which I don't do. I say that the news is strictly to make you fearful and afraid to do anything.
For sure.
I don't go to bed watching the news. I don't know if there's an 11 o'clock news. I don't have it on. I don't, outside of asking what the weather is, and not because I have my head in the sand, I'm fully aware, but I don't need to listen to things that'll keep me from moving at my highest level and highest potential, because I'm in this zone of being afraid. Oh, we can't go here, we can't go there. And so, being afraid is the new virtue. It's like, if you're not afraid, people think you're crazy now, because that's what's been taught to us. Whereas we really, like you said, using that fear as a gauge, like I use the gauge on my car or my gas or my gas gauge, that, hey, okay, you can only jump 6 feet. That's a 12-foot gap. Don't jump it. Yep. Okay. Using it like that. Even as police officers, wait a minute, there's something off about this scene, this set. Let me radio. Let me get as many people as I can get. My wife told me when I left home, you make sure you get home by all means. So I ain't got to run in the building and be a hero, right? So, using it as a gauge like that is fine, but to live your life according to it. But unfortunately, like I said, that's the new virtue today. Yeah. That's the new virtue. Being constantly afraid is a new virtue.
And that's why what you're doing, Ralph, is so important, is because you get people to come together and realize we all have fears, but we're all not going to just sit and be afraid. We can step towards those, right? We can pursue the thing that scares us. We can pursue having a difficult discussion maybe with family members that want us to do different things in life.
There.
Because at the end of the day, you got one life.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
And if you don't live it, who's going to live it?
And let me tell you this too, ladies and gentlemen, and let me share this with you, Jerrod. 20 years after we die, probably about 40 years after we die, everyone that knew us is gone too.
Yeah.
You realize that? Like 40 years after you die, unless you have done something significant, which we all have the opportunity to do, everybody that knows us, everybody that knew about us is going to be dead too. But we want to sit in the house afraid.
Yeah.
That's just 40 years after your demise. No one who knew you is even going to be alive. They're going to read it. They're going to read it. They might hear it. But they're not even going to be there. But we want to sit and be afraid. So don't you be afraid. Get out there and be who you're supposed to be. This is it. Yeah, no one gets out of life alive, brother. No one gets out of life alive.
No way. And why are we playing it safe? Why are we hiding our gifts from the world instead of showing our uniqueness to get out there?
Yeah.
I love it. And honestly, that's why I wrote my book when I wrote my book too, Ralph. So when I retired, the first thing I did is I spent that next year writing my book, because there's that quote out there that I really love, and that is, you die twice, right? You die when you physically die. You die again the last time somebody says your name.
Yeah. Wow.
And I want, not for ego, like not because I want people to talk about me or talk about you, Ralph. Yeah. I want us to be able to share our experiences with people so that they can realize like there's so much more to life than maybe what they're being taught or what they're believing in themselves.
Sure. You're right. And we're supposed to live life to the fullest. Supposed to live it to the fullest, man.
Yeah. All right. Let me, in wrapping up, Ralph, I love you're a speaker, my friend. You got power and charisma, and I love it. Wrap up for my community in just a succinct little way. If they're sitting on the fence and they're not sure they should believe in themselves, they're not sure they should take that leap and do that next thing, get them going for me, Ralph. Get them going.
Yeah, well, if you're sitting on the fence, you already know that there's more for you. You're not sitting on the fence if you don't, if you haven't realized there's more for you. They're not even on the fence yet. You realize there's more. So it's going to come down to courage, and it's going to come down to what we talked about, maybe some hesitancy, maybe some fear. Let me be honest with you. We all have had to strum up or get the courage we need. But you know what courage is? Courage is being afraid and going anyhow, going anyway. Get off the fence. The world needs you. Your life will be transformed when you have to be all in on you. Write the check on yourself, invest in yourself, develop yourself before you can lead anybody else to do some other things. But listen, to live life as fullest, to reach your full potential, to make an impact in this world, to live above the level of mediocrity, you got to get off that fence, ladies and gentlemen. You got to jump in. Be all in. Be all in.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ralph, for joining us. Where can our community follow you, support you? Where would you like us to send them?
Oh, man. Anywhere on social media, ralphgravesjr.com. That's my website, ralphgravesjr.com. If you go to that website, ralphgravesjr.com, you can join the Unstoppable community. It'll say apply, or you'll say you hit the community button. You can join that. You'll see our 6-week personal development program is on there. Hit apply. The team will get right back to you. Would love for you to be part of the cohort. Would love for you guys to be part of the cohort. Instagram, Ralph Graves Jr., LinkedIn, Ralph Graves Jr., Twitter, Ralph Graves, everywhere. Ralph
and you
Graves
got a
Jr.
podcast too, right? The Unstoppable Podcast.
Have a podcast on every platform called the Unstoppable Podcast with Ralph Graves Jr. My book, Unstoppable. I hope it does for you with the way What Makes a Great Great did it for me. I hope it's 86, 87 pages. Read it, share it, pass it along, give it as a gift. But let's be unstoppable together. We can all be unstoppable.
Amen. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ralph. It's been a pleasure, my friend. OPP community, get out and support our boy here, Ralph Graves Jr. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.